Hey everyone, how are you today? It is Bridget here from Bridget's Kitchen, welcoming you to this wonderful day number 10. It is day number 10, can you believe it, of our 12 cooking days of Christmas. And today we are doing a whole, and I mean whole, she's about that big, baked or roasted or barbecued salmon. Now we've done so many amazing food items in the last 10 days. This definitely for me is a bit of a showstopper. So I'm so glad you guys are here to see what we have here, see this showstopper. And please, if you have any questions as we're going along this class, because I've had a few people who have contacted me recently who want a bit of information when it comes to how you bake the salmon. And I know I'm gesturing down here because this is kind of where it is. Woo! Check that out. How good does this look? All right, so I've had a few people come to me in the last couple of days, and they've been asking me questions like about how to barbecue or how to roast this whole salmon, because really, when you think about it, it is a bit of a showstopper. So there is 4 kilos of salmon that I have personally purchased, and I'm finding that whole salmon, they're coming into between 3 to 4 kilos in weight. Now to put that into imperial, that is nearly 9 pounds of gorgeous fresh flesh. So it is a huge big salmon, which is wonderful. If you're wanting the recipe, you're wanting the exact recipe, you can still purchase it. I have got my Christmas ebook, which is Bridget's Healthy Christmas, which is 50 festive healthy recipes for the Christmas, New Year's and summer season. You can still purchase that by going to bridgetshealthychristmas.com, and you'll find the ebook there, which you can download automatically. But anyway, let's get into the salmon recipe, because as I was saying, this is a bit of a showstopper. So I want to talk you guys through first what I have in front of me. And as I was saying, she's just under 4 kilos. Don't know if it's a she, I'm just calling it a she. She's just under 4 kilos. Incredibly fresh and amazingly plump as well. So what you want to look out for when you are purchasing your fish is the first thing that you need to look for is what is happening here within the eye socket. So is it looking really fresh, really glossy? You don't want it to be sunken in, you want it to be bright. So look there to begin with. Make sure that that eye looks really, really bright. The next thing you want to look at is what's happening within the gill region. So under here is where the gills normally sit. Now my salmon has been gutted, as you can see. So they've taken out the gut cavity and literally, and they've also taken off the scales. And you can totally ask your fishmonger to do that for you. They will take off the scales, they will remove the gut. So what you're left with is just basically the fish, that parts that you're going to eat. So when it comes to the gills, have a look under here, and you want to make sure that this is also nice and bright as well. So lovely and bright. Have a feel of the flesh. What you really want, even on the skin as well, is to make sure it doesn't feel slimy. So if it doesn't feel slimy, you've got a pretty good indication that your salmon is looking fresh, but also it is feeling fresh, and it's going to be tasting fresh as well. So number 1, have a look at that eye socket. Number 2, take a look at the gills. And number 3 really comes down to, remember, I always say this, that cooking is a very active process. We need to be a part of it. We need to look, we need to smell. That's the other thing, smell it, make sure it doesn't smell slimy, but we also need to feel as well. So having a feel of this salmon lets me know that she's not slimy at all. She's wonderfully fresh. And as I was saying, I just purchased this yesterday from my fishmonger, and it is a beautiful specimen. And because it's such a beautiful specimen, I definitely want to respect that beautiful specimen. So one of the things that I'm really mindful of when it comes to, you know, cooking fish or cooking meat is just respecting this beautiful, beautiful fish and making sure that we do an amazing job with it. The last thing that we want to do is ruin it. Absolutely. So I'm glad you guys are in the right place, especially if you are doing salmon. Let me know if you plan on doing this showstopper for Christmas or New Year's, or just for a party you're attending. Let me know, because I'd love to hear from you whether you think this is something you'd be into. I know it's definitely something that we are into in our house, and the first thing that I am doing to prepare it, I'm not just giving it a little bit of a pat down, I'm actually going through and I'm just removing some of the moisture. So just with a paper towel, definitely with a paper towel, give it a bit of a rub down. Don't be afraid to get involved. And getting involved sometimes means, and I've got this on non-stick paper by the way, getting involved, well, that's from the fishmonger, sometimes means being very hands-on. And being hands-on is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Right. So I've flipped her over. Once again, taking my paper towel so I can dispose of it, of course. A few more paper towels. We're going to just give her a bit of a pat down. A wonderful wee pat down. Doesn't she look gorgeous? This is such a beautiful, beautiful fish. It really is. So once I've done it on the outside, remember all the scales have been taken off because you need to eat this. Skin is delicious. Skin is delicious. You need to eat it. So get rid of the scales. Give her a bit of a wipe down. And then we're going to go into the cavity. So the cavity is this part here, where the guts used to lie. And as you can see, this fishmonger has done a wonderful job at removing all those guts. All I need to do now...
Carrie's just asking, what apron are you wearing?
What? Oh my gosh, yes! Let's have a look at this apron. I believe this is another hostess apron because it's kind of looks nice, but it probably doesn't have much effectiveness when it comes to if you had spills, especially imagine a turmeric spill and then a curry spill, but it is stunning. It is absolutely stunning. And it's got these gorgeous red, and I think they look like maple leaves. I reckon this is a Canadian one. Just stunning. Hostess apron. Goes really nicely with my little dress that I have on today. And I thought it's probably going to be so ineffective if I get fish juice on me, but I look good. So sometimes that's important as well. So thank you, Kerry, for that question. Thank you so much. So I'm just my last little pat down of our salmon. And yes, we do have Mahi behind the camera today. I thought it'd be a good idea that we actually had him hands-on because this is such a long salmon. And there's a really good point actually. When it comes to you choosing what fish you want to cook, if you do decide to go with this is like I said, nearly 4 kilos with the salmon, you also need to be very mindful about whether it's going to fit. So when it comes to this fish, it's probably a good 3/4 of a meter long, I would say. So it's a decent size. The first problem that I came across is, does it fit in my fridge? It did, but I just had to kind of put the tail up like that. You don't want to buy these too long in advance because obviously fish is very delicate, very perishable, goes off really quickly. So you want to buy it, the day before you intend to cook it is ideal. But make sure it fits in your fridge, number one. Number two, is it going to fit in whatever you decide to cook it in? So for example, in the recipe in Bridget's Healthy Christmas, the ebook, I have a method for barbecuing it whole, but also for roasting it in the oven, because what I do realize is that some people in other parts of the world, they're not experiencing the warmer months at the moment. They may find that going outside to the barbecue is not ideal and they may want to cook it in their oven. But for us who are in Australia currently and experiencing one of the worst bushfire seasons on record so far, it's just been horrendous. There is a total fire ban in parts of Australia. So total fire ban means no active, I'm getting scales everywhere. No active live fires. You can use a gas barbecue. We don't actually own a gas barbecue. We only have a barbecue that requires us to burn wood. There's a total fire ban on that. So what I'm doing here today, instead of barbecuing it for you guys, I'm showing that yes, you can barbecue it, which is wonderful. And the method for that is in the ebook. But you can also pop it into your oven. So check first that your barbecue is big enough, which is really important. If your fish is this big and your barbecue's that big, it may not work. Also make sure that if you are barbecuing it, you have a barbecue that has a lid. Like maybe you've got a Weber, so you can put the big kettle lid on top. Or maybe you have a hood on your barbecue. Really, really important that it has a hood. And the other thing that we need to be very mindful of as well is, does it fit in your oven? So I'm quite fortunate, I have a meter long oven, so I've got one of those really long rectangular size ovens. But if my oven was like a normal 60 to 80 centimeter oven, which is more like a square, you might find that this fishy here is not going to fit. So definitely think about your oven or think about your barbecue before you purchase your fish to make sure, it's going to fit in. That's really, really important. So once we've done that, you then need to heat up your cooking vessel, whatever it is you decide to cook in it, whether it be that barbecue, heat it up really hot. I've already got my oven on, and my oven is sitting at 230 degrees Celsius, which is a moderately hot oven. So it's more than just moderate, it's quite hot. It's around about 450 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's really nice and hot. And I've actually had it on for around about 40 minutes, getting lovely and hot. And it's the same with your barbecue. Preheat your barbecue, preheat your oven, make sure it's absolutely ready to go. So once that's all done, we're going to think about adding some flavors to our fish. So this cavity here is the perfect place to basically stuff it with flavors. And the flavors that I'm going to use today, let me just get that out of the way. The flavors that I'm going to use today are very typical of what you'd expect to find in fish. So one of the flavors that I'm going to use is, of course, a bit of lemon. So you can take your lemon and just slice it. And this is a lemon I actually had left over. I'd already zested it. I had taken a wedge off one half of it, which makes it the perfect lemon to literally go into that cavity. So we lay the lemons in there. I'm actually going to use a couple of lemons today to go into that cavity. And in the recipe, I call for a couple of lemons, but you could also use limes. There's nothing stopping you, if you have them fresh or you have them in abundance, is throwing a few oranges. Citrus in general tends to work really well, as we know, with fish. Don't even waste those. Don't waste those pieces. There is nothing stopping you from doing that as well. So lemon is in there. We know that's going to really help to flavor that beautiful, beautiful flesh of that salmon. Something else you can think about doing is what type of herbs would you like to put in there. So the herbs in the recipe, I think I use things like basil and I use things like mint and tarragon, but there's nothing stopping you from using this. This is a Vietnamese coriander, or Vietnamese mint as it's also known. A really robust, like the flavor of this is extremely robust. The flavor of this here, Mahi, come. The flavor of this is really robust. So if you have a bit of a sniff of that, you'll notice that that is unlike any other mint or coriander that you may have experienced. It grows incredibly well. In fact, some people regard it as a bit of a weed because it grows that well, much like mint. But the flavor is amazing. And because that flavor is so intense, it's very simple for us to be able to take that wonderful Vietnamese or coriander mint and just shove that in there, shove it into that cavity. It's going to work wonderfully. I've also got some coriander, which I'm going to put in there. Like I said, you could do basil, you could do tarragon, you could do, anything you like, because I'm also going to throw in just a little bit of this lovely fresh mint because it was given to me and I do not want to waste this. I've got mint going in there. Another thing that you could do, which isn't even in the recipe, is you could even consider doing some ginger. So I have a bit of ginger root there. I'm just going to make some slices of that. Go through your fridge, like literally go into your fridge. Have a little look around, see what you've got. I had some beautiful ginger root, and you know already the flavors that we've got in here are phenomenal. We've got ginger, we've got lemon, we've got all those wonderful herbs. I've even got some lemongrass here, and I'm just going to bruise the lemongrass. Give it a bit of a smack with my knife. It's going to help the flavors to be released. So that little bit of lemongrass there, smells amazing, smells like lemon, incredible. That can go in there as well. So I've got these really great flavors. I'm going to finish it off. Where are we? Here we are. With I have some seeds that I just lightly toasted in my frying pan. So in my frying pan I have cumin seeds, I also have fennel seeds, and literally to toast them, all I did was put the seeds into a dry pan, heated them for about 3 or 4 minutes on medium. And remember, when it comes to things like seeds or spices, the flavor intensifies once you've added a little bit of heat. So that dry fry, even though it only takes a couple of minutes for you to do, that dry fry has such an amazing effect on the overall flavor of what you are cooking. So those go on right into the head. Might as well, we're going to be cooking the whole thing. This is only a couple tablespoons of these spices, these wonderful spicy seeds that I have there. They work really well with salmon. Let's not forget, the very final step, which is the seasoning. So I've got my Himalayan salt here. We're going to go back into that cavity, give it a bit of a sprinkle. But as well as that, we are also just going to sprinkle the top of the skin. I'm going to lay down just a little bit of salt underneath, just to make sure that we're flavouring the underside of the salmon as well, which is important. Right up to the head, right down to the tail, top to tail eating this is. A little bit of pepper as well is going to go on. And I'm flavouring the skin because you eat the skin. You absolutely eat the skin as well. So you're not wasting any flavour by flavouring the skin because it's totally edible. All right, bit of pepper goes in there. Now we need to think about how we're going to enclose it to protect it, because as I've said, so often, the flesh of fish is extremely delicate. We want to protect it at all costs. If we don't protect the flesh while it cooks, there is chances of it drying out. So we want to make sure we protect that flesh. So the way that I'm going to be protecting the flesh today is, firstly, I do have a little bit of non-stick baking paper, which is going to help. I'm going to also grab up a latest copy of the Sunday News. The Sunday News, and this is also going to help to protect that flesh. So taking up two full sheets, so a full spread of the paper. Newspapers used to be larger. This used to be a lot easier to do, by the way. I'm just going to lay them under the fish. The whole idea that we're doing here is we are making sure that we fully enclose this. Yes, we've got a question.
Tracy Waters said, prawn heads are one thing. Please don't tell me you eat fish heads.
Yeah. Oh my God. Do you know?
Yes, Tracy.
Do you know that fish heads are my dad's absolute favourite meal?
And mine
he's already, and your dad too, right?
Yeah.
Because as Polynesians, we don't believe in wasting anything, and there is so much fat and goodness in the heads, minerals, vitamins as well. And a lot of times we couldn't afford, because when we live in urban areas, so when we live in our traditional homelands, it usually means we're really close to the ocean. But we move out of our traditional homelands and we move closer to the cities. A lot of those cities, that we can't just go down the road and throw a line and catch some fish or put our net out. So we would have to go to the stores to buy them, and a lot of times we couldn't afford to eat the meat of the fish, but we would be given the heads. And so the heads are actually looked at as being a delicacy within a lot of Polynesian cultures, especially for us urbanites who no longer live next to our rivers and our streams and our oceans. So once we move to the cities, we still want to have fish. We can't afford to have the actual, the fillets. We go for the scraps, and the scraps are wonderful. So my dad would always eat his fish heads with onions. Like, he'd literally just boil them, and I can still remember the smell in the house. His dad's boiling up his fish heads, and it was literally just that, fish heads. And sometimes it was mullet, sometimes it was snapper if he was really lucky. It was whatever the fishmonger was giving away. Sadly, they tend to sell those because they know that they're very popular now, the fish heads. And they tend to sell them. But my dad would cook it with onions, and sometimes he would also put coconut cream in there as well. So, or depending on how he was feeling. But in general, it was onions and lemon. That's what he had. So a little bit more baking paper just goes down. That is also going to protect the skin as it cooks. And now that I've got my newspaper...
What did he say? Suck the fish eyes.
Suck the fish eyes. They were the part we used to fight over as kids, who got the eyes, would you believe? I know it sounds crazy, but it's all absolutely true. And I still don't like the smell of fish heads cooking in the house because it is pretty full on and it's literally just boiled. But one of the first restaurants I ever operated in New Zealand, so I was the head chef, I was the restaurant manager. That restaurant, by the way, got 5 stars. Got one of the first 5-star reviews from the toughest reviewer in New Zealand back in the early 2000s. My dad came in to eat for the first time, and it was this very, very fancy restaurant that I've been running for a couple of months by the first time he came in. And you know what I cooked for him? Fish heads. So I made sure that my dad was completely comfortable with coming into this fancy restaurant, which at the time he wasn't that comfortable, and I made him fish heads. So yeah, we do eat the heads, Tracy. We love them. All right, what you can see me doing here is fully enclosing my salmon in the Sunday News. You don't have to be the Sunday News, just has to be a bit of newspaper. If you don't have newspaper, some newsprint, or whatever you've got, maybe you've got some brown paper as well. So you want to fully enclose it. And what we're doing here is we are creating, and it's like I said, newspapers are really small now. It used to be double that. I remember the New Zealand Herald was like that big, and it was a lot easier to wrap. Not the case anymore. Newspapers are smaller for obvious reasons. Not as many people are buying newspapers anymore, so they have to go a bit smaller. It just means you just have to take a little bit more time to make sure that you have fully wrapped up your fish. So once you have it at that stage, I'm then going to take up some kitchen twine. This is something that doesn't burn. I know it's this beautiful blue and white colour, but it is definitely something that doesn't burn. And we want to start to just wrap our fish. So we want to encase it fully in the newspaper. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. I suggest you phone a friend when it comes to this part. It just makes it a lot easier to wrap. But if you don't have a friend, because my friend is currently holding the camera, so I'm literally have to do this on my own, there's a couple of ways that you can do it to make it easier. Always start with a knot at the top. So just make a lovely little knot at the top, just like that. You've noticed that I haven't removed it, I haven't cut it off from there yet. I could be completely wrong on this, but in my mind I think this is going to work the best. So we make that little knot. So now it's stuck at the top there, which is good. We've enclosed it. And all we need to do is start to go over and under with our twine. Just like that. And as we're going over, we continue to wrap. Remember why this is important. What we are doing here is we are ensuring that we're protecting that gorgeous, delicate flesh. And we're also doing it, and we're making use, if you do still buy paper, of the newspaper, which is also really important as well. So I'm just rolling now, just rolling. See me rolling.
How many songs say rolling?
Rolling on the river?
Yeah.
Yeah. Proud Mary. Alright, so one more time just for luck. I know she's completely enclosed, but I'm actually having fun, and I like having fun. I could have worked in a fish and chip shop because I love making little parcels. You can also imagine that I absolutely adore wrapping Christmas presents too. I love it. Alright, I'm happy with that. That is looking really, really good. So we're going to give it a bit of a snip. And then we're going to secure it as well, just like the butchers do. We're going to secure it, and the best way to secure it is to pull it and then go back on itself. Just like the butchers when they make, when they tie up pork and stuff. So there you have a really well wrapped salmon. I've got it in firstly a layer of baking paper. I've also got it in, I think there's about 6 to 8 layers of newspaper there as well. But use the biggest newspaper you can find, just because it makes it a little bit easier. So the next step that we need to do, is I'm going to take this over to the sink, like my little package of salmon. Take it over to the sink, and I'm going to wet the newspaper. Not too much, because it's going in the oven. If you're going in the barbecue, you could literally fully submerge this in a bucket if you have, but make it quite wet. But because we're just going into the oven, it doesn't have to be amazingly wet. Let me grab a tray, just to put that there so we're ready to go. So, it's going to be a little bit wet. I'm probably going to get a little bit wet too, but that's alright. So, under the running tap, pat your baby down, like that. It definitely pays to have your pinny on today, even if it's not going to work very well. And we're just wetting our newspaper, just like that, right? Give it a little bit of dampness. That is also going to help to protect it. But look at that, she only just fits in my roasting tray. So that's a metre long roasting tray, just under a metre. So that's all you need to do, right? If you wanted to do this part in advance, you could do this part in advance and then leave it in the fridge ready for when you want to cook it. Because this takes, depending on the size of your salmon, this is going to take you between 30 minutes up to maybe 45 minutes to cook through. So now that it's at this stage, like I said, you could leave it in the fridge at this point, come back to it even the next day and pop it into your barbecue or into your oven and cook it like that. It does sit quite well in the fridge. We're going to cook it now, but I don't expect you guys to hang around for the next hour or 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm going to do part 2 of the salmon cooking once it comes out of the oven. So this now goes in. You need to come back in about 30 to 45 minutes. We'll go live again, and you will see the end result of what happens, but also the tips and tricks on how to know when it's cooked, because you're looking at this package going, well, how do I even know? Can't see anything, you know, it's in there, how do I know it's cooked? I'm going to show you guys how you can test on whether it's ready, because I think that's really a big part of it as well. So join me, 30 minutes time I reckon. We'll see you guys soon. It's going in the oven now, yay!